It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker and topic. It happens to be a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Bringing together leadership and love is huge for me. It's what made me want to get a PhD in leadership, and so I'm really excited about what Teri has to bring today. So let me go ahead and introduce her. Dr. Teri Baydar is a renowned coach, author, and thought leader in the field of consciousness and personal growth. With decades of experience coaching high potential individuals, she is known as the CEO Whisperer for her unique ability to guide clients through transformative change. As the author of Flip Your Switch and founder of the Love Consciousness Human Platform, Dr. Teri offers a revolutionary perspective on how shifting from war to love consciousness can unlock personal and collective potential. Now, we had a conversation about this topic. We've had several conversations about what Dr. Teri would bring. And when she shared her concept of love consciousness, I said, we need to bring this to the IFC. So, Teri, thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for having me. This is such an amazing opportunity. I'm so excited because we're here in a professional setting talking about love, consciousness, and leadership. It's all there in the title, and it's very exciting and a little bit bold, if you might say,
I would agree.
for the Institute of Coaching. So thank you so much, Institute of Coaching, Harvard McLean, for providing the space.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's get started. I'm going to share the slides that I have prepared. So, love consciousness in leadership. Understanding the role of love consciousness and how it leads to thriving relationships, meaningful change in leadership and coaching. Shifting from competitive, fear-based thinking to a more cooperative approach. The difference. War consciousness is a product of left brain function, binary thinking of win, lose, right, wrong, us versus them. It's fight mode. Then we have love consciousness. Love consciousness sort of comes from the right brain or right mind ecosystem. It's non-binary, multidimensional thinking. It's the yes and approach. As coaches and leaders, it's really important to think about how we create a ripple effect. So by creating a certain space, we create mental shift. And I propose here that by having the ecosystem of love consciousness, we create a different impact for our clients. How does this work? War consciousness is about separation and dividedness. Love consciousness is about connection and being united, being together. And that leads to a state of cooperation where we stop exploiting one another and perhaps maybe even the planet and start collaborating for a greater good. The journey. Now, there are many levels to this. It doesn't just happen, even though the title of my book is Flip Your Switch. It's not so easy. It's a process. We go from knowledge, that's the concept part, cognitive. Then we have the know-how. That means we have to act, evaluate, learn, adjust, get our hands on things, do some things, try some things, fail some things. Then there's a knowing that emerges. And this is an inside job. This knowing comes from our experience. And it's kind of what we talk about getting to a level of wisdom, really knowing from the heart what we want to do, who we want to be, and how we want to show up. Let's talk about your consciousness, since that word is so difficult to really put our hands on. Sorry, I have like a... So consciousness is the life force that is you. It is what is within you. It's both the witness and the creator in your life. Now, the film, those are our narratives. Those are our stories, our neuroperception, our perception, our mental emotional landscape that shapes how we approach things, what we think of people, what we think of ourselves, what we think is possible or not. and how we present ourselves. The movie on the screen, if you think about this as this model of a projector, is your life playing out, feeding back to you. And we've created that in a great part from who we're being. Life tends to like give us what we're expecting or what we're creating. And I really want to focus on this model because we're going to come back to it at the end. Understanding that the light behind the lens is without imprint. And the film that you choose has great impact on how things move for you. If we're looking at the film that we're choosing, the narratives, the way we're looking at life, perceiving it, even our neuroception, it goes that deep. We want to notice our thinking, be self-aware, and look at the if we're having internal war and we have this like black and white thinking, maybe a black and white film is how you might think about it. Um, we're in a reductionist state. If we open up and see the possibilities, we can notice and engage in multiple narratives and maybe not just have door one and door two possibilities in our life. Maybe door three, door four, door five, and maybe a combination thereof will open up. This empowers us to choose and curate more like a color, full-blown color film. So this narrative gives us something to anchor our thinking in as we move towards understanding war consciousness and love consciousness, the difference and the shift. War consciousness is binary thinking, win, lose, right, wrong, us versus them. It is control oriented. It aims to capture, contain, and control. It is giving us the emotional state of fear, dissonance, and defensiveness. As we move through these, try to take a moment and don't worry about capturing any of this. You're going to get all the slides. You're going to get all the film afterwards. Just sit back a little bit and think about how we are often in a state of dissonance and defensiveness and fear. And ask yourself maybe how much do you really want to be there as an individual and how do you serve others or not from that place? Love consciousness is a multidimensional way of thinking. It's very open-minded, and it embraces feelings, and it is anchored in the experiential world. It is connection-oriented. It leads to deeper relationships and helps us get to a state of faith over fear. This is a little disclaimer about the way I talk about the brain and the mind. It is metaphorical. We're going to talk a lot about left brain, right brain function, the linear left brain, the multidimensional creative right brain. But don't take this too literally. Hold these constructs gently. Be careful to have them be something you can think about holistically and not go into a reductionist mindset about them. That's important. There is, though, the biological truth behind this, that structurally, the left brain and the right brain are very different. They function differently and therefore create an ecosystem that is of the mind different. So I tend to use the word mind for the right and brain for the left simply because they reflect the nature of what we're talking about. I highly recommend anybody who wants to dig into this particular part of understanding war consciousness and love consciousness, please check out Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary, and everything else that he wrote. Absolutely great, gorgeous. Brain versus mind terminology. Like I said before, the left brain is materialistic. We tend to think in a calculating way, and it can also lead to more of a creation of fear and anger. It affects the kinds of emotions that we have. And again, I use the right mind because it's layered from the materialistic part of who we are, which is the CPU of the brain. And the right mind is more of an open space. And that's the software Think of it as the software. So we do have left brain and right brain hardware, and then we have left mind and right mind software. But the reason I'll tend to say left brain is because it represents the materialistic view of the left, and right mind represents the holistic openness of the right brain and mind function. And I like to say to my clients, get out of your left brain into your right mind. Next. This is many years of empirical research through wisdom traditions. This also overlaps quite a bit with Keegan's transition from socialized to self-authoring mind. Dig into that anytime you want. Neuroscience. This correlates to Ian McGilchrist's work on the brain hemisphere. War consciousness, left brain versus love conscious, right mind. Now we're going to get into this, try to just sort of see what that feels like as you look at the slides and you think about this. The war conscious left brain is where we get the voice, I know, I'm right, others are wrong, my personal gain comes first, and my body is just a vehicle. The love conscious right mind is, I'm curious and open to others' experiences. I'm interested in everyone's happiness, including my own, and my body is a great place to live, and I take care of it. I love it. There's a series of slides like this, and I want you to think about and sort of sit back and just look at the differences of how these two sides of self feel. One, war conscious, manipulate, capture, contain, control. Love conscious, understand, support, hold and nurture, elevate. The emotional and mental states of these two states of being. War conscious is disconnect, self-importance, blame, materialism. Love consciousness is connection, self-acceptance, responsibility, and a holistic approach. Attitude differences. War consciousness, intolerance, complaining. Is it worth it to hurt? I think of that as like vengeance. Love conscious, understanding or at least seeking to, being in a state of gratitude, being open to what am I learning rather than is it worth it? And to heal, to seek healing rather than hurting another because they might have hurt you. Behavioral contrasts. In war consciousness, we have destructiveness, contempt, dismissing, disdain for others, and even disdain for ourselves. If you are in a state of contempt, you are definitely in war consciousness. You cannot be in love consciousness and have contempt or go around dismissing people. It's not possible. That's always a good sign. I like to think of contempt as a really great red flag for yourself or the client to know, or perhaps someone, if you're a leader, an executive, what is someone experiencing there? And when you're seeing that you have contempt for what they're experiencing, big red flag to notice where you are in your perceptions and your thoughts and your judgments. In love consciousness, in our behaviors, we are constructive, we are caring, we listen, and we have empathy for others. And for coaches, a lot of that is really the opening up of the curiosity that leads to empathy. This is something that I picked out, and hope is a really interesting construct that can really tell us where we are or where someone else is when it comes to being war conscious or love conscious. In war consciousness, hope is like a marketing tool or leverage to create desire and gain market share or control over someone. You use hope to get somebody to do something that you want them to do. That is a weaponization of hope. Anything can be weaponized, but I like to use this example as hope because it happens a lot, even well-intended ways. Then we have on the love conscious side, hope is a healing agent that brings people together for the greater good, for the planet, and for healing of oneself or others. This is really important. It's a softer holding of what hope is and how it functions. Left brain versus right brain function. Now, the actual organ is structured in a way that is very different on both sides. The left brain sees everything as disconnected and inert. It is binary. It's either black or white. It's either us or them. It's really reduced, and the actual wiring of the brain is in binary, like a computer hard drive. Now, the right brain is not. It is actually wired differently, and it sees everything as connected and alive. What's really interesting here is the way that that structure permeates then the physical structure permeates the mind level of what we're talking about here, of thoughts and emotions, and it impacts. So the more time you're using your right brain, the more time you're going to be having multi a multi-dimensional thinking or multiple options to a solution. Not just is it right or wrong, is it this option or that option? You'll have many options. This is incredibly useful for companies and executives that are working with innovation, where you really, that's what we call thinking outside the box. What's also really cool is to understand that the right brain is actually bigger than the left. So, love consciousness in leadership development. This is what we're here for, right? As coaches, as leaders, it's our job to model the model. And so sometimes we have to do a little work ourselves to embrace what it is we're trying to transmit. If we're holding a space that is a love conscious in structure, it will automatically have a ripple effect. It will shape the client perspectives and business approaches in ways that are more constructive, more creative, and overall more healthy for the client, for the company, for the team. That's my calling as a leadership coach. And I think that's what most of us are here to do. And that's why we do what we do. The benefits of love consciousness on a wider scale are immense. Obviously, if we have more people, especially leaders, thinking and behaving from this right-minded perspective and understanding their own functionality, we get enhanced innovation, creative thinking. We look at problem solving rather than how do we fix this so that we can make money. An interesting fact about certain styles of economics is that there is a love conscious form of economics, and we call that bee economics as opposed to locust economics. And there's a great book on that. You'll get the references. It's called Locust and Bee Capitalism in the Future. I haven't got the whole title right there. But the reference is in the handout. You'll be able to look that up if you're really into the economics of how love consciousness is and will continue to shift the way we do business. It so the being a love conscious leader takes you to a level of more complex problem solving and allows you to look at more multidimensional solutions, not looking for the right fix, but for the optimal solve that is considering long-term objectives as well as short-term. These kinds of structural, mental, and emotional functions in leaders create the types of business models that are now emerging towards regenerative solutions for the world, circular economics, cleaning up the planet, figuring out how to heal, because this way of thinking is directed towards healing, not making money. You see, because in love consciousness, we create value for people in the real world. It's alive. We consider what we're doing to have impact and importance on what's happening for people, for the planet, for the vibrancy of life. When we're coming from a left brain war conscious state, We're trying to just get the quick fix so that we can make money. So that's the big contrast in leadership for the future, which is either creating value or making money. That's a very important um, thing that we have to look at how we as leaders, whether we're coaches or executives, or I work with a lot of CEOs, what does that mean for not just my company and people, but for the world and my children? Consciousness is a practice. It's not a skill, but it's an ongoing practice which increases your capacity and prepares leaders for complex business environments. So the more you do it, the more you get it, and the more benefits you get from it, the bigger it gets. All right, the steps to love consciousness. First, we as individuals have to challenge the constructs and the social and psychological limitations that are imposed on us. Get out of the box kind of thinking. We have to avoid binary thinking. And for a lot of us, that means we're going to have to think about how we speak and abandon certain linguistic formulas of is it this or is it that kind of way of going about how we think about things. Eventually, we develop emotional intelligence and positive narratives that become self-evident. They just become our background music, and it's great. What to do though for our clients, for our team? How do we make this work? So we got to start by challenging the most offensive common constructs. The happiness formula lie. We need to question societal definitions of happiness and success. We have to challenge the scarcity mindset of there's just not enough. Somehow there's never enough. And we have to avoid that strict right wrong categorizing of someone, something, really got to take off our judgy pants and be open minded and try to understand what to do. 3 things to open the mind for the shift. Give up on hate and frustration as a motivation, guiding the client through the abandonment of the need to capture, contain, and control. This is essential. Also, most of us do this as coaches. Diminish and dismantle the saboteur voice. We need to guide the client to recognize and reframe the role and narrative of the saboteur voice. That is a whole course on its own. Which is, I think, most of us are daily dealing with our own saboteur voice or that in our clients and peers. We need to give up on the right wrong thinking. Use open questions extensively to keep the conversation in right mind territory. This is really a basic on how to create that space. Tools. We love tools. 4 Pillars of Emotional Intelligence by Dan Goleman. Brilliant. The egg model of self-awareness and self-curation. You got that. You'll get that and you can experiment with that. And I'm always open to someone coming back to me. You've got my emails in the handaway, giveaway. Any questions, I'm open. Lean into the innate human sense of love consciousness. Turns out we all kind of know it's there. Dan Goleman's pillars. Notice how self-awareness is at the bottom. Without it, you cannot build self-regulation, other awareness, and regulate relationships. You must first be self-aware. It's incredibly important. And build on that, which is why I created the egg model of self-awareness, which is in the chapter of the book is in the handaway. What is this? It looks funny, I know. But we show up in different personas in different ways at different times. So the 3 personas are a categorization of who you're being in any given moment. What are you, how are you showing up? So we have 3 basic layers to who we are. Professional persona it's public, it's rule-based environment. We perform to spec. Then the opposite is our private persona. That is our our true self when we're 100% in a safe place and feel safe and we're alone with our own thoughts and feelings and we can have that introspection. Um, then we have the white, and that's always a little different. That's who we're being while we're with family, friends, loved ones, where it is safe, but at the same time, we do have, certain rules, societal rules, family rules that we need to obey in order to, have that sense of belonging. Turns out most of us know that love consciousness is a universal construct. 90% of the global population identifies with a religion, and most of those who are unaffiliated identify as spiritual. There are so many studies on that. I put one in here for you to look at if you want to, but it's actually unbelievable how widespread this is. And it's not so much about the religions. It's most of us believe in some kind of, force or God, or maybe it's the E field. Love consciousness is innate to who we are, and it is innate to nature. Um, it's part of the underlying interconnectedness of reality and life itself. It is a transformative power. It should, by shifting our perception from separation to unity. And this is really important because, in a way, it's not so much that we have love consciousness, it's more that love consciousness has us. It's so much bigger that we're a tree in the forest. And knowing that it's a part of us really gives us something to lean into. It is not human created, it is discovered. Nobody invented it, it's just there. It's it's this organizing force underlying nature. And by leaning into it, we create harmony and peace within ourselves. And it does emerge over time when we practice leaning into it, when we try to understand it, and we are willing to give up some of those binary constructs of right and wrong, or think that we're right. Even we can lean into love consciousness, and then there are moments when we might think that we're better than somebody else, and we have to catch ourselves. This is something that we all kind of know it's there, but it's so light for a lot of us. We're so busy running around getting stuff done. It's hard to see or feel, which is why I really think that it's important to have some alone, quiet time. I'm a meditation teacher for that reason, helping people to, get in touch with this. Why bother? There are many benefits. For the individual, the dissipation of fear is pretty immediate. It also gives us courage, but kind of the Brene Brown kind of courage, the bravery to face challenges, and sometimes even, it brings us a lot of joy in a very interesting way. Um, we, when we cultivate love consciousness, and we build and we create a mental emotional landscape that is more and more love conscious, a lot of these things just happen. And we become trustworthy, we trust ourselves. And then we start to have a trust in life, which means less fear. And then we're braver and we try more things and we're more motivated to try new things. And we try new things and they either work or they don't, but it doesn't define us because we're defining from within. And it's a very deep trusting in self, trusting in the world, trusting in life itself. And with that, we're much stronger and we can then lean into relationships in a much deeper and more impactful way, which of course is really awesome for coaches and also for team leaders who are trying to, move their people forward and to be that kind of a leader. The end game, there is an emergence that happens over time, which is the emergence of what I call in my book the daemon or the higher self. The daemon is the ancient Greek term for it. Um, the petty self starts to take a break, and some of those ego driven behaviors eh, slack off. They don't have the reward that they once did. Um, our insecurities diminish, our defensiveness diminishes. And as we sit back and start to live in that way of being love conscious, the not good enough feelings dissipate. And that's what is the most important thing that we want to get to because it simply brings us to a state of joy, happiness, confidence. We feel empowered. We have this resilience. And so now I'm at the end of this. I know that was a lot. I'm going to stop my share here and pop back on with the rest of the team. And we can then, sorry, I'm having a problem here. Oh, there. Did I stop the share? There we go.
No, 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 you did. Yeah.
All right.
That
Whew, that was a lot. I know.
was really great. My goodness.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. I want to go so many places with this, but let's just start with with the Q&A and a couple of the comments. So Val is asking, I arrived late, so I might have missed it, but are some people naturally more wired to think with the right or the left brain?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And there's actually different levels to that. Yes, there is a biological level to that. There is a gender level to that
Hmm.
biologically.
Interesting.
And then there's a social also. So here's the deal. Some people are more into the right brain function. Like we have people who are more creative naturally, and some people are very, they get very binary in their thinking, very, that's natural. But then on top of that, societally, we are more and more over hundreds of years leaning into more left brain function. Look at what we do in a day. How many Excel sheets do we have? We have a lot of check the box, get it right, get through my to-do list. All of that is really a lot of left brain muscle that we're doing. While the right brain is over there going, all right, what do I do today? Like, oh, I got nothing to do. So there is a problem societally where we lean more and more into the left brain and not enough into the right brain.
Hmm.
There was actually in Huffington Post a really interesting article coming out on AI creative and how AI taking over left brain function in so many ways might give us the opportunity to use our right brain more. Okay.
Wow.
Then there's the part about, okay, so that we're trained, and then there's a gender thing. Women are allowed to be and expected to be a little bit more creative.
Mhm.
Men, no. Men have to be a little bit more like business-like. We're allowed to have, flowers and stuff. So there is kind of a gender bias thing that happens. Now, on the biological gender part as well, or actually, like if you are Biologically, a woman, your brain is wired differently, and you will have between 11 up to, depending on the studies, I've read between 11 and I've read up to 102 uh, times more connectivity between the left and right brain, which
Mm.
means that your left brain function is being overseen by your right brain function. Now, again, we can't take this too seriously because there's a lot going on. We don't just have left and right. We've got frontal lobe, reptilian, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is this is biologically, founded, scientifically founded, but it's also metaphorically really interesting to get a hold of so that we can have choice
Mm.
and choose where we're coming from. Notice and choose. Which film do you want to play in your life?
Terry, can I just interject a question that kind of is related to what you're saying here? And just so you know, the questions are pouring in. The question about this, so in terms of gender and right brain, left brain, we have an anonymous attendee asking about trans people. Where might they fall in this conversation?
I do not know. I know the biological studies. So if you are biologically female, you're going to have more interactiveness. If you are, so that's the biological. And so biologically, there's that. Now, I think this is more opinion than fact that people who are often non binary in gender, whether they have, biologically shifted or not, are what they're really leaning into in many aspects. The gender is part of what we would call the soul or the self. Um, for example, I'm non binary, I'm a she, they, um, but I'm physically female. My DNA is all female. But I do recognize that inside, because I've done so much introspection, that I'm a 50-50. I am 50 male, 50 female inside. My soul is 50-50. My sense of self is 50-50. So that's where the they comes from. Because I identify with certain aspects of what society says is male or female. I identify with, so I was like, why? Because I let go of the constructs that society was pushing on me. Left brain, this is it, not it. And I think that we talk about this uh, gender fluidity today is a great sign that we're stepping out of reductionist left brain thinking of you can only be this or that. One or
Mm.
two. You're one
Mhm.
or two. That's it. And if we go back to the ancient Greeks, certain Eastern civilizations, they had 5 genders, 7 genders. This is not new.
Yeah. So my question is, and that's man, because I'm trying not to. I'm like, let me stay focused. One more question on gender that's in the box, and if other people ask, I'm going to just shift to another topic. But this is in relation to this conversation. Does this make women better at making decisions because they can better integrate left and right brain?
Yes. No, no doubt about it. Yes. I mean, it's a form of mental load, executive function that women are better at. And we talked about how women can multitask, but men can't. And there are all these studies on, and why are these, and um, how they make better leaders. There's studies that we're better wired for leadership because from the right brain function, for starters, because we are programmed for it and expected to use it more, it develops more. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore we're able to sit back and see a problem in a more multi-functional way. And therefore we can pinpoint stuff. And it goes all the way back to the gatherer versus hunter functions of male and female roles and just the way we developed. So, yes.
So interesting. Okay. And I'm gonna move on. I can go into this conversation alone, but okay. So Lynn is saying she just watched the interview with Rutger Bregman and John Stewart, and he is starting an organization called Moral Ambition, combining love consciousness coaching with this aspirational approach for professionals. She's saying combining love consciousness coaching with this aspirational approach for professionals could be powerful. Just a comment, not a question. So something to check out. Do you feel that meditation is the only route to connecting with love consciousness?
No. I am a meditation teacher because it is the most effective tool to gain the most traction possible. But many of my clients that go through this transformation from war consciousness to love consciousness do not meditate.
Mhm.
We can incrementally learn, use, learn, use, learn, use, learn, use, learn, use within our behaviors. You saw those slides about behaviors and outlooks and so we can always pinpoint one thing to shift it, and it's the regular 2 week session. And then you come back. Oh, I did this and this felt like this. And then you check it. Then you shift something else by choice. Do. But you have to do it, make it experiential. Because there is the pitfall or trapdoor that you can sort of like ohm this into existence. No, you cannot just meditate and then become love conscious. You need the experience beyond the meditation mat with other people in order to embody this.
Hmm. Okay, so let's move on. Referencing the film concept, reduction allows for more simple, efficient, quick decision making. How do we as leaders explore multi-narratives, color versus black and white, but not become overwhelmed with all of the choices?
Very good question. Very good question. Um, I would say this happens incrementally, not to worry about too much of the overwhelm. Even though my book is called Flip Your Switch, it's not immediate. It's something that you you grow your capacity very slowly to integrate. And eventually what happens, and this is a really cool part. I didn't really go into this very much, but once you get to kind of what I call the third stage, the black and white thinking just becomes two of the many colors that you're working with.
Okay. Oh, that's so good. Okay. So, an anonymous attendee is asking, are you familiar with Dr. Daniel Siegel's new view of bilateral integration of the mind?
No,
Um,
I do know Dan Siegel, and I don't know that particular book or
okay.
methodology, but definitely I have read a lot of Dan's work.
Okay. And they go on to say, in his view, it seems like most of the separating that we did in the 70s and 80s has largely been debunked by modern neurologic research. What do you think of this? And I
I
don't know.
don't understand the question because I haven't read the book. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people, we have to hold this very gently in the left brain, right brain, because there's a lot more
Hmm.
going on than just the left brain and the right brain in the brain.
Right.
We have multiple nodes and crossovers. But this is simply mostly a metaphor, although it is based in biology, um, to help us understand ourselves and see ourselves.
Hmm.
This is not a brain science talk.
Yeah, because there's so many different things that can impact with trauma and injury or places that we focused on healing and growth and all of that. changes
Yeah.
the physiology of the brain. And so,
Yes, there's
yeah.
so much more there. And the ultimate point of my book and what I do and where I take my clients is not literally about the brain.
Hmm.
What we want is a shift in consciousness. We can also see that consciousness is that higher level. We have like we talk about the brain as a materialistic, that's like the hard drive. And then we have the software. That's the mind. That's your mental emotional landscape. That's the energy and information that's going through us. And it's not just also in the brain, it's also in the body. The body holds the
Right.
score.
Right.
And then, but above that, we have then the consciousness. And consciousness is really getting into who are you? Who do you want to be? What are the choices? How do you curate yourself
Hmm.
as a human in the world?
Love that. I love that. Okay, so Ashley is asking, I'm curious about how this might apply to elite teams. I'm thinking of special operation forces such as Green Berets, SEALs. I do some work with these communities and see both war and love consciousness.
Yes. Actually, I participated in a leadership conference at West Point. And I didn't know what to expect. Fundamentally, you will find that a lot of I come from a military family as well. A lot of our military are very love conscious at the core. It's just they're not allowed to say it like that.
Hmm. Mhm.
We have a lot of servant leadership in the military, surprisingly, because we tend to think of the military as very hardcore, and a lot of what they do is. But if you look at like why? Why is a military person going out there? Why are black ops doing these horrible things, these horrific things that they do, right? Because they're like, we're talking about killing people. Why? They're coming from a place of, wanting to do good. So that, again, this is where with the integration of an understanding that you don't have to flip back and forth from love and war, which was I was just talking about, you get to a state of you can do this um, from a place of that overlapping intention and that overlapping understanding of love consciousness. And then everything you do becomes a tactical, practical uh, implementation. And the function of war consciousness is diminished because it is your command center is in your right mind in love consciousness. And so what you're doing changes because you're not doing it for like I in revenge. You're doing it for a reason
Mhm.
that is coming from your center of command in your right mind. And that's an essential learning that um, military people get when you get down and you teach them this or you talk to them about this. They actually get it. It's harder to practice because of the culture sometimes for them, but they get it. One of the people who wrote in my book, an acknowledgement of my book, is ex-general military.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that's a great question. It's so
I would
important.
love to if anybody wants to reach out to me with deeper understanding, I am available.
Yeah.
The email is in the handout.
Well, let me parse through some of these to see. I mean, the questions just keep coming in. Let's see. This is a good practical question from Mary. What are the practices and tools you recommend for coaches to use for ourselves so that we can be effective partners in creating love consciousness?
Oh, that's a really great question. Um, I mean, all right, shameless plug. Read my book. Look at the handouts. Um, Look at the slides. Revisit the presentation. feel free to reach out to me. I will go into any specifics that you have questions about. Um, there's so much about ourselves becoming love conscious and making this shift because we naturally will hold the space with the love conscious, right minded structure. We become an ecosystem for our clients. And when we hold that space, they kind of just fall into it.
Hmm.
Hold the space, you watch what you say. Keep your questions always in a open format as much as possible. You can anchor them, you know, you can anchor them, but you need to keep that open. It's very essential so that their mind will automatically fall into that. We have to let go of our political ideas, any judgments. That's the hard part for the coach is really
Yeah.
just being that neutral so that the client coachee can find that neutrality from which to emerge differently.
Hmm. So I have one more, and there's a bunch more, but this one is asking you to place this love consciousness conversation into the current context of America. And I'll read some of what this is from Velma Cobb. She says, "How does your work and framing sit with working with those affected by the current war behavior and mindset? I work with leaders in government, higher education, and not-for-profits that are having a really hard time." And then we'll close out with that.
Yeah. Um, the first thing about love consciousness that we want to that I want to like put forward is that it starts with you. Um, yes, we live in a predominantly war conscious world. It had for hundreds of years we've been building on this from an economic point of view, from a societal point of view, from a personal point of view, which is why we have so much of what we have today is because we made war conscious choices all the way through and we just keep making them. Doesn't matter what party you are, doesn't matter what, country you come from. We've been doing this, humanity as a whole, for a long time.
Mm,
And so we have to start with ourselves and finding the love consciousness within yourself, embracing it for yourself. You at least get the low-hanging fruit of I'm not so afraid. I'm not worried about not being good enough. I'm not worried about what those people are doing. I'm going to let them because I'm going to pull my energy back and I am going to create from where I am everything that you can you can do that is positive for you.
mm,
Really want to think about that. Because when you start with yourself, you can at least have the critical mass of me and eventually the critical mass of somebody else, and then those who want to join you. But if we look to change those out there, we're in trouble.
mm,
We do not have the leverage. We only
right.
have the leverage of this. And so we always have to refocus and find the peace within ourselves through love consciousness and abandon the war mindset for ourselves. And that from that place we create new things.
Mm, hmm.
And when a small amount of people do this, this is how big things change. This is how big things have always changed.
Right.
Is that when a small amount of people actually do their work and then start to come together, and they're not actually that mad about it, they're just doing it.
Hmm.
Then things
So
happen.
this is huge, and I'll just give one final comment. Colleen Bracken just said, "Truth, baby." So thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share before we close out?
No, just thank you so much for having the space, the Institute of Coaching, and all you beautiful people for showing up here to have a conversation that is radical about love, consciousness, and leadership. This is radical, and I love you all for just being here. This is
Hmm.
amazing.
Yes, it has
Thank
been
you.
amazing. And this has been so well received. I know we all want to go back and check out the content because there's so much and it's so good. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Terry.
Thank you.
All right. Well, bye everyone. Have a good rest of your day or evening.